The bright light appeared in the sky over Washington, D.C. on a clear Tuesday morning. It started as a small dot, then grew larger until it was impossible to miss. People stopped in the streets to look up. Cars pulled over. The world held its breath. Captain Eric Mason stood on the White House lawn with his hands clasped behind his back. As the leader of the first contact team, he had trained for this moment for years. But no training could prepare anyone for meeting actual aliens. "They're coming down," said Dr. Olivia Wright, adjusting her glasses. The scientist had been studying the strange signals from space for months before the aliens announced their arrival. The ship was beautiful, smooth and silver, shaped like a teardrop. It hovered silently before touching down on the grass with barely a sound. Secret Service agents formed a tight circle around the president, their faces tense. A door appeared in the side of the ship. It opened without a sound, and then they emerged. The Valari looked almost human, except for their pale blue skin and large, dark eyes. They walked on two legs and had two arms. The leader wore flowing robes of silver and blue. "I am Ambassador Zilith of the Valari," the alien said in perfect English. "We bring greetings from the Galactic Council." Captain Mason stepped forward. "On behalf of Earth, we welcome you." The next few days were a blur of meetings and news reports. People around the world celebrated. Humanity was not alone in the universe, and the aliens seemed friendly. The Valari spoke of a grand alliance of species, the Galactic Council, that governed the stars, and they invited Earth to join. "This is the opportunity of a lifetime," the president told Captain Mason during a private meeting. "Think of what we could learn from them." But not everyone was convinced. Samantha Reeves, a military intelligence officer, found Eric in the hallway after the meeting. "Something doesn't feel right," she said in a low voice. "They're offering us too much for too little." Eric nodded slowly. He had the same feeling, but couldn't put his finger on why. "Keep digging," he told her. Dr. Wright was the one who found the first real problem. She was reviewing the translated treaty that would make Earth a member of the Council. "The translation doesn't match up," she told Eric and Samantha during a late-night meeting. "The English version talks about mutual protection and respect, but when I ran their original language through my own translation program, it mentioned something called protected species status. It sounds more like a zoo animal than an equal partner." Samantha leaned forward. "I knew it. They're hiding something." Eric rubbed his forehead. "We need more evidence before we take this to the president." But time was running out. The world's nations were voting on council membership in 3 days. The excitement was too great. The promise of new technology, travel between stars, and medical advances was too tempting. "We need to delay the vote," Samantha insisted. They'd brought their concerns to the president, but the momentum was too strong. The Valari had promised starships and extended human lifespans. They offered cures for diseases and clean energy. "I understand your concerns," the president told them, "but we can't pass this up based on translation concerns. The people want this." The vote passed. Earth joined the Galactic Council. The Valari presented Earth with its first faster-than-light ship as a gift. Humans were granted limited access to interstellar travel, and the first colony ships prepared to leave for nearby stars. As Captain Mason watched the celebrations from his apartment window, his phone buzzed. It was a message from Samantha. "Found something. Meeting at 600. Bring right." Eric stared at the message for a long moment. The fireworks reflected in his window, celebrating what everyone thought was humanity's greatest achievement. But deep in his gut, Eric felt they had just made a terrible mistake. The Galactic Council had welcomed humanity with open arms, but those arms might actually be chains. 5 years passed since Earth joined the Galactic Council. Humans had built small colonies on 3 nearby planets. People called it a golden age, but Richard Hayes knew better. Hayes sat in his office on the Council's massive space station. As Earth's representative, he should have felt proud. Instead, he felt like a failure. The walls of his office were too small, much smaller than those of other species representatives. It was one of many small insults humans faced daily. He looked at the screen showing the vote results. Once again, the mining rights on a planet discovered by human explorers had been given to the Xelnar, a species that always sided with the Valari. Another loss, sir. Lisa Carter stood in the doorway. She was young, only 26, but smart. Hayes had hired her as his aide 3 months ago. The council voted 23-4 against us, Hayes said. Same as always. Lisa closed the door and lowered her voice. I found something in the archives. The Valari did this before, with the Krith species. They welcomed them, then slowly pushed them aside. Now the Krith only have one planet. Hayes wasn't surprised. Over the years, he had noticed the pattern. Humans were denied advanced weapons for their own protection. Their fleet expansion was limited by strict quotas. Every time Hayes objected, the council would vote against him. We need proof of a coordinated plan, Hayes said, not just separate votes. Lisa nodded. I'm working on it. Later that day, Hayes walked through the great hall of the council station. He saw a group of Valari talking with the Xelnar and other powerful species. They fell silent when he approached. Representative Hayes. Ambassador Zillith said smoothly, we were just discussing trade routes. Hayes forced a smile. Of course. I hope Earth's new shipping lanes were part of that discussion. Perhaps next session, Zillith said. His large eyes revealed nothing. That night, Hayes couldn't sleep. He sent a secure message to Earth, to Admiral Paul Donovan. They had been friends since college, before Paul joined the Navy. Something big is happening, Hayes wrote. I need your eyes and ears. Admiral Donovan read the message in his underground office beneath Washington, D.C. Unlike most people on Earth, he shared Hayes' suspicions about the Council. Quietly, he had positioned loyal officers throughout the small human fleet. Monitor all Council communications, he told his team. Hayes thinks they're planning something. On the distant mining colony of Proxima Beta, Jack Miller received new orders. As a covert intelligence operative, he had spent years building a cover as a maintenance worker on Valari ships. Now he would attempt his most dangerous mission yet, accessing the Valari communication hub. Back on the Council station, Lisa Carter worked late into the night. She had discovered a pattern in the Council's voting records. It wasn't just random discrimination against humans. There was a clear progression, a tightening of restrictions year by year. Sir, look at this, she told Hayes the next morning. 5 years ago, humans could build 10 ships per year. Now it's down to 3. At this rate, in 10 years we won't be allowed to build any. Hayes studied the data. Good work, Lisa, but we need to find their actual plan. They must have it written down somewhere. On the other side of the station, Ambassador Zillith met secretly with leaders from 5 other species. They spoke in their native languages, with no translation devices present. The containment of humans proceeds as planned, Zillith said. They suspect nothing. Another alien, with gray skin and 4 eyes, disagreed. Hayes is becoming a problem. He asks too many questions. Zillith made a gesture of dismissal. Soon it won't matter. The Council votes next month on the new restrictions. By the time humans realize what's happening, it will be too late. None of them noticed the small maintenance robot in the corner of the room. Inside it, a hidden camera recorded everything. Jack Miller had taken his first step toward uncovering the truth. The Galactic Council's betrayal of humanity was about to be exposed. The great meeting hall on Proxima Centauri colony gleamed under bright lights. 200 council representatives sat in rising tiers of seats. Richard Hayes stood alone at the speaking platform, his voice steady despite his anger. These records show a clear pattern of discrimination against humans, Hayes said. He pointed to the large screen behind him. In 5 years, every single mining request from Earth has been denied. Every petition for advanced technology has been rejected. Ambassador Zillith's blue face showed no emotion. Representative Hayes makes serious claims with little evidence. Humans simply lack experience in galactic matters. Is that why human territory is now restricted to only 5 light years from Earth? Hayes asked. While the Valari control 50. Whispers spread through the hall. Some representatives looked uncomfortable. Others nodded in agreement with Zilith. The council has voted, Xylith said. For the safety of all species, human expansion must be controlled. Your kind still shows aggressive tendencies. From a hidden balcony above the main floor, Admiral Paul Donovan watched the proceedings. He wore civilian clothes to avoid attention. Next to him, a small device recorded everything. They're not even trying to hide it anymore, he whispered to himself. The council voted again. The new rules would restrict human ships from traveling beyond their current colonies. Any human vessel found outside these areas could be seized. Hayes left the meeting with his fists clenched. Lisa Carter waited for him in the hallway. They didn't even listen, Hayes said. They had already decided. Lisa looked around to make sure no one was nearby. Jack Miller has infiltrated the Valari hub. He says he found something big. Across the colony, Jack Miller moved quietly through the maintenance tunnels of the Valari Communications Center. His heart beat fast, but his hands were steady as he connected a small device to their main computer. Come on, he whispered as data flowed into his device. Suddenly, the screen lit up with a file labeled Containment Protocol. Jack opened it and started reading. His eyes widened. This can't be real, he said to himself. The protocol detailed the Council's plan for humans. First, restrict them to their colonies. Next, gradually reduce their territory. Finally, quarantine all humans to Earth alone and strip their colonies for resources. The reason was clear: fear. The Council believed humans were advancing too quickly. In just 100 years, they had gone from primitive technology to space travel. The protocol called humans dangerously adaptive. Jack copied all the files he could find. Just as he finished, an alarm blared. Someone had noticed the unauthorized access. Security breach in Section 4, a voice called out. Jack pulled his device free and ran. He made it to the tunnel entrance before a Valari guard spotted him. Stop, human. Jack didn't stop. He sprinted toward the spaceport where a small human cargo ship was waiting. The Valari fired. Energy beams hit the wall near Jack's head. He rounded a corner and saw the ship ahead. The pilot had the engines running. Jack pushed himself harder, ignoring the burning in his lungs. Another shot hit him in the leg. He fell but kept crawling toward the ship. Get up. Run. The pilot shouted from the open door. With the last of his strength, Jack got to his feet and stumbled into the ship. The door closed behind him as more guards appeared. Go, Jack gasped. The ship lifted off, barely escaping the energy beams fired from below. Jack lay on the floor, blood pooling under his wounded leg. Did you get it? The pilot asked. Jack held up the data device. Everything. Their whole plan. Hours later, Richard Hayes received the data. He and Lisa Carter spent the night reviewing the containment protocol. It was worse than they had feared. We have to warn Earth, Hayes said as dawn broke over the colony. But it was already too late. The Council had called an emergency session. By unanimous vote, they approved immediate sanctions against Earth for espionage and hostile actions. The betrayal was now complete. The blockade of Earth had begun. The sky over New York City was filled with alien ships. They hummed there day and night, a constant reminder of humanity's new reality. The same scene played out over every major city on Earth. The Council called it a peacekeeping force. Everyone knew it was a blockade. 6 months had passed since the Council's sanctions began. Store shelves grew empty. Medicines became scarce. The colony suffered even more, cut off from Earth and surrounded by Council patrol ships. In an underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Andrew Bailey paced the length of a large conference table. Maps and diagrams covered the walls. Military officers and scientists watched him nervously. The President has authorized Operation Shadow Fleet, Bailey announced. As of today, we begin building ships that the Council doesn't know about. Dr. Olivia Wright raised her hand. With what resources? They monitor everything that leaves Earth. Bailey smiled for the first time in months. Not everything. He pressed a button, and a hologram appeared showing the asteroid belt. We've had secret mining operations in the belt for years, small enough to stay off their radar. Admiral Donovan, now back on Earth, nodded in agreement, and we have the data Jack Miller recovered. It includes their shield technology and weapon systems. Jack Miller sat at the far end of the table. His leg, still healing from the energy blast, was propped up on a chair. Don't forget about their blind spots, he added. Their sensors can't penetrate certain types of rock formations. We can hide entire factories inside large asteroids. The meeting lasted for hours as they planned humanity's secret resistance. No one mentioned that it might take years. They all understood the stakes. On the distant colony of Europa Nova, former Marine Kate Winters watched her daughter play in the colony's small park. The artificial sunlight was dimmer now, part of the power rationing. Council ships patrolled the sky above the dome. Kate's communicator beeped. It was a coded message from Earth. She read it and quickly deleted it. That night, Kate met with a dozen other colonists in a storage room. Earth has a plan, she told them. But we need to hold out on our own for a while. A man named Ben shook his head. We barely have enough food for 6 more months. Kate unfolded a map of the colony. Then we need to grow more. The maintenance tunnels have enough space. We'll need to rig lighting, irrigation. The council officers will notice if we draw that much power, a woman pointed out. Kate grinned. Not if we siphon it from their own base. They use 10 times what they need. Similar meetings happened across all human colonies. People adapted, found ways to survive. The council thought humans would beg for mercy within a year. They were wrong. Back on Earth, in a hidden facility beneath the Antarctic ice, Dr. Wright made a breakthrough. She had been studying the alien technology for months. Their systems are actually less advanced than we thought, she told General Bailey. They've been using the same basic designs for thousands of years. They don't innovate like we do. Bailey looked at the new engine design on her screen. Can we build it? Wright nodded. Not only can we build it, we can improve it. In the asteroid belt, the first secret shipyard took shape inside a hollowed-out rock nearly 100 miles across. Engineers worked in rotating shifts, building the frame of what would become humanity's first true warship. On the Council's main station, Ambassador Zillith met with other leaders. The humans are weakening, he reported. Their communications show increasing desperation. Another council member nodded. Soon, they will accept permanent protected status. None of them knew about Operation Shadow Fleet. None of them understood that every day of suffering made humans more determined, not less. None of them realized that their greatest mistake was giving humanity time to prepare. The dark years had begun, but so had humanity's path to revenge. 10 years had passed since the blockade began. What the Council meant to break humanity had instead forged it into something stronger. Deep inside the asteroid belt, in the largest of 20 hidden shipyards, engineer Frank Collins watched as workers attached the final armor plates to the warship Guardian. She's beautiful, he said to no one in particular. The Guardian was unlike any ship humans had built before. It was not the biggest. That honor belonged to the flagship Defiance. But it was the first of its class to be fully completed. 100 more waited in various stages of construction across the belt. Frank's greatest achievement was the stealth system. The Council would never see these ships coming until it was too late. He had reversed engineered their sensor technology, then designed a hull material that absorbed those scans instead of reflecting them. Mr. Collins, Admiral Donovan requests your presence on Deck 3. The voice came over his communicator. Frank made his way through the massive ship. Workers nodded respectfully as he passed. Everyone knew his name now. Admiral Donovan stood before a large viewport, looking out at the stars. His hair had gone fully gray in the past decade. The weight of humanity's future had aged him. "Is she ready?" Donovan asked without turning around. "Yes, sir. Final checks were completed this morning." Donovan finally turned. "Good, because we just received word from Europa. The Council is planning to deport half the colony population to ease resource strain. They're beginning the next phase of their plan." Frank's hands tightened into fists. "My sister is on Europa." "I know. That's why we're moving now, not next month as planned." Donovan placed a hand on Frank's shoulder. "The Guardian will lead the first strike. Captain Nelson has requested you on board as technical advisor." Across the solar system, on Jupiter's moon Europa, a hidden training facility had been operating for 8 years. Here, in chambers deep beneath the ice, the best pilots learned to fly the new fighters in simulator battles against Council ships. Maria Vasquez climbed out of the simulator pod, sweat soaking her flight suit despite the cold. Her scores flashed on the screen above. Another perfect run. "You're showing off now," her wingman, Liam Boyd, said with a grin. Maria shrugged. "Just staying alive." Their commander entered the room, his face serious. "Briefing in 10 minutes. This isn't a drill." In the briefing room, 50 pilots sat in stunned silence as they viewed actual footage of the Guardian and 15 other completed warships moving into position. "Operation Payback begins in 72 hours, the commander announced. "Your fighters will launch from hidden bays across the Jovian moons. Timing is everything. The Council cannot know our true numbers until it's too late." On Mars Colony, Resistance leader Kate Winters received the coded message she had waited a decade to see. "Dawn comes. Be ready." Her daughter, now 17, helped her gather the Resistance cell leaders. "Is it really happening, Mom?" Kate nodded. "Yes. Get the jammers ready. When the fleet arrives, we need to block the Council's communications." In his office on the Council's main station, Ambassador Zillith reviewed reports from Earth. The humans were still surviving, but barely. Their resistance had become almost routine, merely an annoyance. "Proceed with the Europa deportations," he instructed in aid. "Make sure to separate families. It breaks their will faster." His console beeped. A junior officer appeared on screen. "Ambassador, we've lost contact with 3 patrol ships near Saturn." Zillith frowned. "Likely just solar interference. Send a repair team." The officer hesitated. "Sir, we've also detected unusual energy readings from the asteroid belt. Probably mining activity. The humans are allowed limited operations there." Zillith waved dismissively. "Just increase the patrols." In the command center of the Defiance, Admiral Donovan received final confirmation. All ships were in position. The fighters were ready. The ground teams on every colony stood prepared. "Send the signal," he ordered. "All ships, execute Phase 1. Across the solar system, humanity's hidden fleet emerged from the shadows. The Council's 10-year reign of oppression was about to end. The hunters would become the hunted. Humanity was coming for the Galactic Council, and this time, they were bringing their own terms. The Council blockade over Mars had 30 ships. They had held position for 10 years, watching the human colony slowly weaken. The alien crews had grown bored and careless. Many slept at their posts. No one expected trouble. That changed when the Guardian appeared seemingly from nowhere, directly in front of the blockade's command ship. On the bridge of the Guardian, Captain Gregory Nelson stood calmly as the Council ship scrambled to battle positions. "Open a channel," he ordered. Communication Officer Diane Porter nodded. "Channel open, sir." The face of a startled Velari commander appeared on screen. "Unidentified human vessel. Power down immediately or—" "This is Captain Gregory Nelson of the Earth Defense Fleet." Nelson interrupted. "Your blockade of Mars ends now. You have 5 minutes to withdraw." The Valeri laughed. "1 ship against 30. Your species truly is delusional." Nelson smiled slightly. "Who said anything about 1 ship?" At that moment, 15 more human warships dropped their stealth fields and appeared around the blockade. Each was heavily armed with weapons based on Council technology, but improved by human engineers. The Valari commander's blue face paled. Impossible. Where did these ships come from? 5 minutes, Nelson repeated, then cut the transmission. Frank Collins stood behind the captain, checking readings on a small device. Stealth systems worked perfectly. They had no idea we were here. Good. Let's hope they're smart enough to retreat. They weren't. After a brief conference with Council headquarters, the Valari ships formed attack positions. They're powering weapons, Diane reported. Nelson nodded grimly. All ships engage as planned. Target their engines and weapons first. We want prisoners, not casualties. The battle lasted less than 20 minutes. The Council ships were older models, not designed for actual combat. The Council had grown so confident in their superiority that they had stopped upgrading their military vessels decades ago. The human ships, by contrast, were built specifically for this moment. Their shields absorbed enemy fire while their weapons cut through alien defenses with surgical precision. "Sir, the command ship is disabled," Diane announced. "The captain is requesting terms." Nelson turned to his first officer. "Begin boarding operations. I want all their data cores secured." 2 hours later, Nelson led a strike team onto the Council command ship. The alien crew stood with their hands raised, shocked by how quickly they had been defeated. Nelson walked straight to the bridge, where a team of human technicians was already downloading the ship's computer system. "Captain, you need to see this," one of the techs called out. "We found their command codes. We can access their entire communications network." Diane Porter, who had accompanied the boarding party, sat at the alien communication station. "I can break their encryption. Give me an hour." Nelson tapped his communicator. "Admiral Donovan, we've secured the Mars blockade and captured their command ship intact. Officer Porter believes she can access their full network." Donovan's voice came through clearly. "Excellent work, Captain. The Jupiter operation was equally successful. We've secured all 4 colonial moons there." Casualties. Minimal on both sides. The Council forces weren't expecting any resistance, let alone our level of firepower. While this conversation happened, across the solar system, humanity rose up. On Earth, hidden resistance cells disabled Council monitoring stations. On Venus Colony, miners seized control of Council supply depots. On every human world, people who had suffered for a decade took back their freedom. In Washington, D.C., General Bailey addressed the world from a hidden broadcast station. His face appeared on screens everywhere, replacing the Council propaganda that had dominated for years. "People of Earth and her colonies, today we begin our fight for justice," he said. "For 10 years, we endured the Council's oppression. We survived their blockades. We outlasted their attempts to break us. Now we strike back." Richard Hayes, who had returned to Earth years earlier, followed the general's speech with evidence of the Council's betrayal. The containment protocol was displayed for all to see, proving that the aliens had never intended to treat humans as equals. "The Council lied to us from the beginning," Hayes told the watching billions. "Today, we show them, and the galaxy, that humanity will never accept chains." On the Council's main station, Ambassador Zillith stared in disbelief at reports flooding in from across human space. How had they built such a fleet in secret? How had they coordinated this attack so perfectly? For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council faced something they did not understand, and it terrified them. 2 months after the first strike, humanity's fleet had grown to over 300 ships. The hidden shipyards worked day and night, turning out fighters and warships. Thousands of volunteers signed up to crew them. Admiral Donovan stood in the command center of the Defiance, studying the holographic map of known space. Human territory glowed blue. Council space was red. The blue was spreading rapidly. "Status report," he ordered. His second-in-command, Commander Alan Wright, approached with a datapad. "Northern Battle Group has disabled Council military bases in 3 systems. Central Battle Group has liberated all human colonies. Southern Battle Group has cut off Valeri supply lines in their home sector. Donovan nodded. And our losses? Minimal, sir. Their ships are no match for ours. They relied on numbers, not technology. And now that we've revealed ourselves, more Council species are contacting us. To surrender. Wright smiled. Some, yes, but others want to join us. It seems we weren't the only species the Council mistreated. On the bridge of the Guardian, Captain Nelson received a transmission from a planet they had just freed from Council control. The alien leader resembled a tall, thin human with purple skin. "Captain, my people thank you," the alien said. "The Valeri forced us to give them most of our food crops for decades. We will gladly supply your fleet as you continue your campaign." Nelson accepted their offer graciously. This scene repeated across dozens of worlds. Many species saw humans not as invaders but as liberators. In the Southern Battle Group, Commander Heather Brooks led a daring raid on a major Valeri fuel depot. Her ships, smaller and faster than the others, slipped past Council defenses and struck without warning. All targets destroyed, her tactical officer reported. No casualties on either side. Brooks nodded with satisfaction. Good. Set course for the next target. Her strategy wasn't to kill but to disable. The Valeri ships, stranded without fuel, couldn't fight back or report their positions. One by one, Council fleets found themselves drifting helplessly in space. Back on Earth, Lisa Carter, now a senior diplomat, hosted representatives from 15 species who had broken away from the Council. Some had been Council members for thousands of years. "The Valeri lied to all of us," said an ambassador with 4 arms and glittering scales. "They claimed humans were violent and unpredictable. Yet you disabled our ships without killing our people. You offered medical aid to our wounded." Lisa smiled diplomatically. "We want justice, not revenge. Join us in creating a better system, one based on true equality." Meanwhile, on the Council's main station, chaos reigned. Representatives argued and blamed each other for the disaster. Some demanded all-out war against humans. Others secretly prepared to switch sides. Ambassador Zillith tried desperately to maintain control. The humans cannot sustain this offensive. Their resources must be nearly exhausted. A junior aide approached nervously. "Sir, we've lost contact with the defense fleet protecting your homeworld." The human Southern Battle Group was last seen heading in that direction. Zillith's usual calm finally broke. "Impossible. How could they have advanced so quickly?" The answer, though he couldn't know it, was simple. The humans had studied Council tactics for years and knew exactly where to strike. Every human ship carried detailed maps of Council space, targeting the weakest points in their defense network. On the Defiance, Admiral Donovan received the news he had been waiting for. "Sir, the Valeri Defense Fleet has withdrawn to protect their homeworld. The path to Praxenia Station, Council headquarters, is clear." Donovan's face showed no emotion, but his voice was firm. "Send the signal to all battle groups. Phase 3 begins now." 300 human warships, accompanied by dozens of allied vessels from former Council worlds, changed course. Their destination, the heart of Galactic Council power. The Council had betrayed humanity, thinking Earth was just another weak species to control. Now they faced the full might of human determination. The final battle was about to begin. Praxenia Station hung in space like a massive wheel, home to the Galactic Council for over 1,000 years. Its defenses had never been tested in actual combat. Until today. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. 300 warships surrounded the station, their weapons ready but not yet firing. Admiral Donovan stood on the bridge of the Defiance, his face solemn. "Open a channel to the station." On the main screen, the face of a Valeri official appeared. Fear showed clearly in his large eyes. "This is Admiral Paul Donovan of the Earth Defense Fleet. We demand the immediate surrender of this station and all Council forces." The Valeri tried to appear calm. "The Council does not recognize your authority to make demands. We have done nothing wrong." Richard Hayes stepped into view beside Donovan. "I was Earth's representative for 5 years. I witnessed your systematic discrimination against humans. We have the containment protocol. We know everything." The screen went blank as the Valari cut the transmission. "They're activating defense systems," reported the tactical officer. Donovan nodded. "All ships, execute breach plan Alpha. Minimal force, precision targets only." The battle for Praxinia Station lasted less than an hour. The station's weapons were powerful but outdated. Human ships, faster and more maneuverable, easily avoided their fire while targeting specific systems. "Life support and artificial gravity are untouched," Captain Nelson reported from the Guardian. "Defense systems neutralized. We have clear paths to all docking bays." "Begin boarding operations," Donovan ordered. Captain Nelson led the first team onto the station. 300 human soldiers moved quickly through the corridors, facing little resistance. Most of the station's security forces surrendered immediately. By the time Nelson reached the council chambers, word of Earth's victory had spread throughout the station. Thousands of aliens watched in silence as humans took control of the heart of galactic power. The Grand Council Hall was nearly empty when Nelson entered. Only 7 council members remained, including Ambassador Zylith. "The others fled," Zylith said bitterly. "They knew you were coming." Richard Hayes entered the hall behind Nelson. He walked slowly to the center of the chamber, where he had once stood to beg for fair treatment. 10 years ago, I stood here and asked for justice," Hayes said. "You voted for sanctions instead. You thought you could break us. You were wrong." Admiral Donovan arrived with his officers. The council members were taken into custody to await trial for their actions. In the days that followed, representatives from hundreds of worlds came to Praxinia Station. Many had suffered under council rule for centuries but lacked the strength to resist. Now they sought a chance for change. Lisa Carter worked tirelessly, meeting with delegates and drafting the charter for a new organization, the Interstellar Alliance. Unlike the Council, the Alliance would give equal voting rights to all member species, regardless of their technological level or military strength. 1 month after the fall of the Council, thousands gathered in a great hall for the signing ceremony. The Valari, humbled by their defeat, were allowed to join under strict conditions. In the front row sat Captain Eric Mason, now 80 years old. He had watched humanity's journey from first contact to this moment of triumph. Admiral Donovan sat beside him. "Did you ever imagine this day when you first met the Valari?" Mason shook his head. "Never. But I always knew humanity would find its place among the stars." As the new charter was signed, a memorial was unveiled in the center of the hall. It honored all who had died during the dark years of the blockade. The inscription read, "Never again will humanity trust without verification. Never again will we be betrayed." The Galactic Council had believed they could control and eventually eliminate humans. Instead, they had created the force that would reshape the galaxy for centuries to come. Humanity had been tested, betrayed, and nearly broken. But like steel and fire, they had emerged stronger, ready to forge a new future among the stars. A future where betrayal would be remembered, but peace would prevail.